It's official. ISO 222 site shows approved request to enable Ripple's interledger protocol on what? Well, it's the SWIFT network. That's a major deal moving forward. On top of that, we'll even show you some key things in regard to Quant and how they play a key role into the mix. First thing that's going to come up on your screen is straight from Smoke. What does he basically have? Well, he gone ahead and took some B-roll video, to say the least. He states this, and if anything, let's play it. So he says we should see this for ourselves. We're going to do just that. It's going to go ahead and play this. And what you see from the ISO222.org site mentions a few key things here. So first is the whole thing of the Universal Financial Industry Message Scheme. Of course, search inside their catalog. And in the catalog, one of the things that definitely pops up is Mojaloop. Now, I, of course, have covered this last January in full details. One of my biggest deep dives ever. In fact, I think that video is about an hour and a half. We're not going to make this hour and a half. But again, focus of attention will be, of course, Mojaloop. Payments, clearing, settlement. Think about some of this. And, of course, that's now been approved. Now, before, it was about the whole thing of a possibility. And I'll cite some references here in a bit. As we get further into it, after he downloads this and so on, he's going to show you, again, a little bit more of the, as the saying goes, the receipts. Because let's face it, Smoke does an excellent job when it comes to just that. So for one, the change request for the update of ISO 222 financial repository items. Again, the terms repository, some of you guys use, for example, GitHub, so you know exactly what we're talking about when it comes to that. On top of that, let's get into where it says the description of the change request. We see how basically the message defines agreed terms of payment. This is a new message, which is the subject of business justification to be submitted to, of course, ISO 222 payments, SEG. As Smoke gets more into it, again, he highlights the whole thing on Mojaloop Foundation. As he gets further into it by zooming in, he also likes to point out the whole thing of the follow types of cryptographic lock that will be supported in the first instance. For example, an ILP-v4 packet. This is why we put so much emphasis about it's these technologies connected to the internet. Remember how Jesse said literally capturing that value that in the past, Microsoft wasn't doing that. Google wasn't capturing that. If anything, they were capturing it in a different way, but it was only being represented in a different form, not in the form of a token. Hence why we talk about the tokenization, right, of some of these markets and so on, and what's being represented on chain. So Smoke gets more into this. He highlights ILPv4, again, Interledger Protocol. If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. It's just a few taps. You can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure. And what you're also going to see here is what's described. So as soon as you click on that, or he clicks on that, it takes you to Interledger Protocol v4, like it says, design goals, what about the part interoperability. But whatever the case be, you see the stack, right? Terminology, for example. And again, he points out the simple payment setup protocol, the stream protocol. Think about how all these come together. All right. So that's one of the main key highlights. And again, like he says, see for yourself. All right, so of course there's going to be some naysayers and so on. And this guy, nothing against him, Leo Berlin, basically states, hey, he checked the approved request and the wiki page for the Interledger protocol. And he goes on to mention, where does it say it's about the XRPL specifically? Well, sometimes you have to go deeper than the Wikipedia page, and I agree with that. And as you do, well, what do you see? Documented 4 times over. Let's jump into this. So for one, before we kick it over to Jesse, you see this right here. And in the citation, you see the team tried to run 3 Interledger nodes connected to blockchain testnets. For example, Ethereum and Ripple XRPL. right? Ripple on the XRP ledger. Well, that's the XRPL. Some guy mentioned before in the comments a few days ago. Oh, that's XRPL. It doesn't say XRP. Okay. Boom. Boil it, mash it, stick in the stew. Look what it says. Party A sent Ether and Party B's node received XRP. Kind of hard to, dice it up any other way, right? So that's important. As we pull up more documentation about this, and again, citation actually comes from the bottom of your screen, which is basically WBG ITS Technology Innovation Lab. Look it up for yourself. Brings us to this next part, of course, from Smoke. Let's take you over to that. And basically speaking, as you see on this tab, even from SBI, ILP XRP is also available from, institution country A and B, and again, how it talks to Japan. That's a major deal. Like it says, ILP XRP and the, not the quotations, but the parentheses, right, is also available, right? Well, what else would they really use at this particular point? Okay, again, utilization for remittance. Last page, or second to last page, I should say, implementation of this system. Let's blow this up just a tad bit more, take you over to there, and Interledger, Ripple's Interledger protocol can function in two modes. We get that. Bottom part says universal mode does not require notaries and can work between untrusted connectors. Think about that. This is different. This changed, of course, the whole thing of notaries in itself, right? And of course, XDC is going to play a big role, but it uses Ripple's internal cryptocurrency XRP. Yes, you read it right. Your eyes are not playing tricks on you, to facilitate, of course, transfers. That's major moving forward, and we love that Smoke always gets into the weeds of all this. All right, last particular citation that comes from this and why it matters to you. Let's take you over to there, and basically it's this. What do you see on the bottom in regards to all the orchestration? Excuse me, I'll do the top first. ILP schematic payment diagram utilizes XRP Ledger for settlement. This is why we study the whole thing of the RSN, the Regulated Settlement Network. What was settle? Well, makes sense to settle in Ripple XRP. And of course, the underlying ledger, the Ripple XRP main ledger. So again, I think this is major. Let's kick it over to Jesse for some key analysis with the findings so far, and then we'll connect the Quant connector here in a bit.
So if you look where it mentioned, like the guy asked, like, where's the XRPL in the Interledger protocol, right? He's like, okay, yeah, I see Interledger protocol, but I don't see where it says XRP Ledger at first. But then you showed it after. Like, anytime they're mentioning the Interledger protocol, like it's always the XRP Ledger that sits on that Interledger protocol. Like I said, with the built-in exchange, on built-in exchange on the XRP Ledger, and the CBDCs built on private ledgers of the public XRP ledger. I mean, there's only the XRP ledger that can do like this crazy, like it's built for speed. It's free. It's instant. There's the liquidity. It has everything it's need. Like it's like we're not going to be using Bitcoin to settle transaction on the Interledger protocol. Okay, like guys, forget that idea. The other thing too is Japan SBI. You saw the document there. Well, as I was telling you before, SBI is the biggest shareholder of R3. They own 10% of Ripple, and I think it's the biggest private shareholder of R3. And they're the ones that helped to settle the lawsuit between Ripple and R3. And that's why I say when Gilbert Verdian says that they partnered with R3, that's going to bring over the shared ledger. Well, that is the XRP ledger. And like I said before, we've got Tony McLaughlin confirming that the regulated liability network and the shared ledger are the same thing. Then we've got a document that I showed where the regulated liability network used to be the regulated Internet of Value. And then I've got a document, that same document says that when the central bank of all central banks, that's the BIS, Bank for International Settlements, when they talk about the regulated liability network, they call it the unified ledger. So essentially, regulated liability network, the regulated Internet of Value is a shared ledger. That's what Tony McLaughlin from Citibank says. Then you've got the BIS, the central banks of all central banks, saying that when they talk about the regulated liability network, they call it the unified ledger. So essentially, what Gilbert Verdian is saying is we also partnered with R3, who are bringing over the unified ledger. right? And that's why I keep saying, like, the unified ledger is XRP ledger. I've been beating that horse recently. Like, I have my last 4 videos. You can watch that. There'll be no more doubt about that. I know I mention it all the time, but again, like, we're seeing document here from SBI, which is biggest shareholder of R3, right? And they are literally showing the XRP ledger as the underlying infrastructure that is being used for the interledger protocol. And I've been saying that from the beginning. The ISO 222, was created so that XRP ledger can settle transactions instantly. It's all about making a common messaging layer so that the messages are common throughout all the banks in the world. So the data that they need for every transaction is there. Therefore, it can settle instantly through XRP and XLM, for example. So yeah, it's all there, man. Just Smokes just keeps confirming what we've been saying, the XRP army.
And here's the bottom line. How long have we been basically saying this? Well, for me, at least dating back to last January, this is going to pound home a lot of key things. So I'm taking some highlights from that video because I realize there's a lot of new people. And how do we even connect things like Quant? Let's pull this up for you and why it matters. If you were to go over to Wikipedia and type in Mojaloop, you will see the highlight of it being open source project of the Mojaloop Foundation. Again, emphasis on open source. The project reference creating interoperable payments, think about that terminology, for digital financial providers intended to reduce the technical barrier of financial inclusion. Created and released by Bill and Melinda Gates. Level 1 project 2017. Mojaloop is a collection of Node.js microservices. There are multiple components for routing, clearing, and settling payments between digital financial services. It uses the interledger protocol for facilitating payments. So when we think about interledger protocol, wouldn't this be your Ripple plug? Absolutely. If you do another search in regards to this, when we go to Interledger Foundation, we know Interledger Foundation is US based. So that's going to help, especially with what Trump signed with his executive order recently. And what also helps is understanding that the Interledger protocol is, well, in fact, a payments interchange standard. So they have their own standard, which is also important. Well, again, a protocol for interledger payments. This guy, Stephen Thomas and Evan Schwartz, published a white paper while they worked at Ripple Labs. And again, the whole thing about TCP/IP. Again, when we're talking about the internet in itself. So obviously we see the whole thing of Ripple Labs. Obviously we see some of these other things, but the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, and how basically speaking, there's even American Express, but they use the interledger protocol, to say the least. And you get further down into it, mentions specifically about the testing of the first payment using interledger protocol transmitted between different ledgers, Bitcoin Ledger, Bitstamp, XRP Ledger, so on and so forth. But then you even see the whole thing about Bank of England. And when I see Bank of England, I said to myself, okay, it's a collaboration of not just Ripple, but things like Quant. And then think about when Quant came into existence, right? Before it was officially called Quant, it was called Remit. Now, when we get further into this, understand the terminology. Was Ripple originally called Open Coin because of its open source software? Think about this. The open source project, originally called Ripple, is the unique consensus ledger, and it was called the Ripple Consensus Ledger. The transaction protocol was called the Ripple Transaction Protocol, or RTXP, and the digital asset was known as Ripples, using XRP as the 3-letter currency code to follow the naming, the renaming and so on. Okay. So we've already been there and done that. Now, if you go over to Mojaloop.io, what you will see here is also important because they have State of Open Conference 2025. This is an event coming up here soon in February 4th to be exact. And it says, join their executive director, Paula Hunter, to speak on the future of open source technology. Now, interesting to see that, right? Right. But we're not ending it just there, because when you get further into this, understand that you're going to see some terminology that, again, I think it just makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. And it is basically this whole thing of this diagram. So I'm going to bring this up to your attention here in just a bit. And what you see here is the Mojaloop hub, and the top part on the diagram. ALS, Oracle MS-ISDN adapter, and the ALS Oracle Merchant Service. Focus on those and the ALS Oracle Simulator, because on the middle part, you see where it connects to a central settlement mechanism, if you will, because Mojaloop open source services. Okay. So my point I'm trying to make here is it makes sense that Microsoft, all right, let me come back into this for a second. Microsoft, who is let's face it, a Windows operating system, right? They have so much more than just Windows, but again, Windows, that's operating system, would use a blockchain operating system such as Quant's Overledger, because that's exactly what it is, to build this out. And we could see this. So again, I know there's so much to get into, but you got to see it for yourself. As I take you into this, I want you to see, again, some of the key things, because when I zoomed in, even from here, I know it's a little bit blurry, we see here, again, how this all comes together. And what's important is, look what it says on the bottom part here. It says, Mojaloop open source services, and specifically mentions customized by hub operator. Now this gets really, really good. If we go over to docs.overledger.dev/docs/onboarding, what do you see in regards to the search about an operator? It says prepare a request for a QRC20 shared account. Now again, when things become a smart contract through Quant, they become, they can become what they call QRC20 smart contracts, right? Under the Overledger through the OVN, the Overledger network. And it says here, when you add an account, someone as an operator of your account, they can make payments on your behalf. They can remove account, which will remove someone as an operator of your account so that they can no longer make payments on, to you and so on. Again, back to the example we shared from what you see here. This adds up. Again, it's just in the code. And again, we see here about canceling a subscription through Stripe, make a new account event, making a new smart contract, and so on. So this all adds up. But interesting to see the terminology. All right, just a tad bit more because, again, I know this is a little bit technical. All right, so we know about how that works. What about transaction fees and so on? Again, it says we need to offer validator nodes to include the transaction on blockchain. And the blockchain validator node operators have no incentive, they have no incentive to include like the transaction. There's other things in that, right? And of course, transaction fees could be on the XRP ledger. They could be on, Ethereum if somebody wants to do that. I don't know why they wouldn't want to do it, but there's that, XDC and so on. Okay. Check what it says here in regards to operator from the notes. Prepare a request for QRC shared account. It says here, this transforms a transaction request, again, from the QRC20 shared account to be signed and returns a request ID for executing. The support types of this API are add account, which will add someone as an operator to your account so that they can make payments on your behalf. Remove account, quote unquote, will remove someone as an operator of your account so they can no longer make payments on your behalf and create credit for account operators to make a QRC20 token payment on behalf of the account owner. Successfully prepared transactions can then be executed using the execution transaction API. Well, interesting to see that. But what's also more interesting is people always ask the gateway fee. And look on the far right over here. I'm highlighting it for you. You see this. And again, the subscription, what unit would be used? It's QNT. So many people are out there saying that QNT won't be used. Of course it will be used. As we go further into it, remember how we talked about the whole thing of Oracle? Look at this. Ripple XRP ALS Oracle Merchant Service. And boom, boil it, mash it, stick it in stew. Stripe says no merchant account needed. Now think about this for a second. If we have API orchestration through Quant's Overledger, what would we settle in? Well, wouldn't it make sense to settle with something for real-time gross settlements for 3 to 5 seconds with finality like Ripple XRP? Yes, which brings our attention back to the emphasis of Stripe. What we see here is that Stripe mentions that you can accept payments and move money globally with Stripe's powerful APIs and software solutions. Again, you're plugged to things like the Overledger. Then to settle with real-time gross settlements through Ripple XRP. And again, the documentation on the Quant developer side, the developer hub, matches up with all this. And just in case you're new to this, you may think, well, how so? Well, again, understand this. When you get into it, there's so much documentation about this in regards to Bitcoin fees and look, XRP ledger fees. And they also have the whole thing at XDC. So there you guys have it in that particular deep dive, which I'll put at a in-screen card for you. You will see where it mentions specifically ISO TC 307, of course, more of that Mojaloop, and again, more of that Ripple plug. Based off of what we have, Jesse, I think the writing is clearly on the wall of how both of these interconnect, of course, how both settle, and of course, that interoperability layer, Quant definitely stands, of course, at the forefront of that. Those examples from Oracle or Profound, and again, pretty much all the documentation, if a person like us takes more of the deeper dive, we see from the developer hub from the Quant network that it's basically all there.
Yeah, so you see Mojaloop, right? So Mojaloop had a partnership with Ripple before Quant was even created. And Stephen Thomas, I believe he's the one of the creators of the Interledger protocol, works on the Interledger protocol. When he was asked, he asked the crowd, a bunch of developers in the room, I believe it was him. It was either him or it was Evan Schwartz, but I'm pretty sure it was Stephen Thomas. He said, "You guys know what is the addressable market size of Interledger? Does anybody know?" And he's like, nobody answered. He's like, all the money, right? Because, like I said, the XRP ledger and the Interledger protocol is the internet value. That's why we see Mojaloop being a partner using Interledger and XRP before Quant was even created. Now, Quant was absolutely crucial because Quant is interconnecting all of the legacy systems and all the systems that everybody uses today to the XRP ledger, to this internet of value, to this shared ledger. And like I explained before, Quant, because the specific reason, like I think some guys in the Quant community don't realize this, or maybe it goes right over their head, they forget this, but Quant's an operating system, okay? Quant cannot do anything without blockchain. Gilbert Verdine, the first day when he stepped on stage and he made the ICO, when he made the public launch of Quant Overledger, he explained, we're building Quant Overledger so that people can use more than one blockchain at the same time. Okay, so it connects to multiple blockchains, and you pick the best features of each blockchain, including the shared ledger, because that's the XRP ledger. Okay, and you build what are called multi-chain applications. That's the reason he wanted to remove the silos. Like, Quant doesn't do anything without blockchain. Like, people have to put that in their head. Okay, any solution that you see, it doesn't matter which Quant partner built it, or if it's on the Quant website, Project Rosalind, Project Mbridge, any of those projects from BIS, any application, any solution, any Quant solution, whether it's Oracle or any of their other partners, these are solutions that are built using more than one blockchain. Okay, without blockchain, Quant doesn't do anything, nothing. Okay, it gets its strength from connecting to multiple blockchains, allowing the world to build what are called multi-chain applications. That's applications that use the best features of each chain, whatever feature they want, okay? And then it also allows all of the legacy systems, like I said, to connect to blockchain, because all the legacy systems that exist today are not compatible with blockchain. So all of the utility, all of like everything, healthcare, data management, supply chain management, global trade, everything, forestry management, it doesn't matter, electricity grids, everything that happens today is stuck in legacy systems. It cannot talk to blockchain. This is why Quant is so crucial. Okay, that's why I say it's the door for the fourth industrial revolution that we're going into. And so, like Quant doesn't do anything without blockchain. Like, that's what people have to understand. So when somebody says, "Oh, I think it's using XRP," or "I think it's using Stellar," or "Oh, they might even be using a bit of Ethereum for the smart contract," or they might be using Avalanche, or maybe they're even using Chainlink, or maybe Energy Web Token. Like, there's no reason to hate. Like, "Oh, you're crazy, it's Quant." Yeah, it's Quant, but which blockchain is it using? Like, if you think that it's not using blockchain, like, I'm sorry, you like Like you left your brain at the door. Be like, I'm sorry, I don't mean that in a rude way, but I'm just saying, like, go back to the basics. Quant doesn't do anything without blockchain. It gets its power because even on stage, Gilbert Verdian said the first 3 blockchains that we're connecting is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple, because that's the ones that our clients want. That those are the biggest ones, and that's the first ones we're connecting to Overledger. Now, why would he say that? Like, if so just remember, every solution that we see coming from Quant is using multi-chains, different blockchains. So if somebody says, "Oh, that's XRP," or maybe they're using a bit of Avalanche, don't freak out. Doesn't mean they don't believe in Quant. Okay, because Quant is the internet trust, nothing bigger than Quant, nothing bigger than Quant. And same for that utility. Like, you can't do anything without using QNT token. Like, you can't, like, there's so many things that this token is being used for, like to host the gateways, to secure the wallet, for your wallet identity, for data transfers, like the licensing for the corporations that are going to use it, the enterprise, like everything uses Quant. You can't do anything with Quant Overledger without requiring the QNT token. So if somebody thinks the QNT token is not going to be used in a massive way, they're highly mistaken, with a capital H. Okay, a big H. So that's my thoughts, brother.
Well, there you guys have it. We're glad to present it to you guys. Cite so many key things, and we might elaborate a little bit more in another video about this and why it matters, because I do think it's a big deal. Because let's face it, we talked numerous times about the whole concept that Quant is basically the new Microsoft. But those examples from Mojaloop and connecting, let's face it, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and so on, it kind of makes sense that if you already have a model there with Windows operating system, that to scale it to the next era, again, back to what Jesse was talking about with the fourth industrial revolution, that you would literally use a blockchain operating system to get that done. And as we also know, Ripple with the Interledger protocol is right at the forefront too, providing, again, that value, hence the Internet of Value. So the Internet of Value, Internet of Trust. Hey, do us a solid if you listen to the entire outline and type in this key phrase into the comments, and that is capital H, and we'll know that you listen to the entire outline. On behalf of myself and this awesome guy, Jesse, over at Apex Crypto Consulting NFA, know what you have, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. And oh, by the way, some of you guys were asking in the comments, what is this channel? Well, basically, just like you see on the bottom left of the window frame, with the blue rectangular box that goes horizontal, it says Apex Crypto Consulting NFA. If you type that in on YouTube, you'll find his channel. Or if you want to just do the quick cheat code that I saw, you could just type in Apex Quant Jesse, and that immediately takes you to his page as well.
Yeah.
So
thank
that's
you,
what
guys.
I do sometimes.
Yeah, that'll take you there for sure.
Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks, guys.